Sunrise Daily, we're joined now by Malaki Ugumadu, who is a lawyer, and then the president of Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Thank you for coming on this morning.
My pleasure to be here again.
Well, speaking about this anti-kidnapping law, we heard the governor there speak about capital punishments for if you happen to kidnap anyone, the person dies in custody, the law says you will face that capital punishment. But if the person does come out alive, you will be, I think it's life imprisonment, as it were. And I did ask the commissioner, so I could ask you the same thing. How do you think this law will help?
Well, putting it in perspective is to insist that this is a response to contemporary challenge, particularly the nature and brand of crime that has manifested in recent time in our country. It is also not peculiar to Lagos State. I'm aware that a couple of states, particularly Anambra, has a similar legislation. And ideally, it is to deal, like I said, with the brand of the crisis that we have on our hands now. But as a rights organization, which I represent, I am very much circumspect in discussing issues of capital punishment, because over time, studies have been conducted, both locally and internationally, to expose the fallacy of that capital punishment as a punishment in dealing with crime. In most countries of the world that still retains capital punishment, statistics have shown that those particular crimes or category of criminal activities sought to be prevented, which lend credence to, the major rationale behind capital punishment, which is deterrence, has not really reduced the incidence of those categories.
Not really reduced or eradicated, because in cases, I mean, look at the states, Anambra, Delta, we haven't heard that prevalence as we used to. We saw that they migrated down towards this area, and now that this law is here.
If you insist that the purpose is deterrence, I don't think you'll be anticipating total eradication. You will at best be anticipating reduction. And like I did hear the commissioner of, you can't completely eradicate crime in a society, no less where the socioeconomic conditions for the total eradication of such crimes, if possible, don't exist, particularly in our own climate. So I'm making the point that even from the simple aspect of how many governors are even disposed to sign death penalties, because it doesn't just end at death, conviction to death by hanging, firing squad, or lethal weapons or whatever. It cannot take effect except you have the chief executive of those respective states consenting to those, since 1999 to date, which is when we returned to a democratic party. It was only Comrade Shomole who signed the death penalty.
So what options?
So now let's look at it very carefully. I am circumspect in discussing this man. I'm also in two minds because we find ourselves in a very peculiar circumstances. The reasons for capital punishment are the issue of deterrence. The other is also to, in short, it is the major reason why capital punishment is introduced as a way of in the administration of criminal justice system. But what we have seen is that where you are unable to deal with the conditions and circumstances that lead to those crimes in the first place, people become not just desperate, but fortified by the instinct of survival as an existential problem to continue in spite of your punishment of death penalty. Studies have been done, like I keep saying. As a matter of fact, in August last year, I played host to the head of the anti-capital punishment section of Amnesty International, straight from London. Incidentally, he was a staff of CDHR when I was the General Secretary. I'm talking of Tosi Popola. And it is a campaign all around African states that think that with the application of capital punishment, you can effectively eradicate crime. It doesn't work that way. What, on the contrary, makes it succeed is the capacity of the state to respond to the conditions that lead to the incidence of those crimes. And let's face it now. Let's face it.
Do you think that Lagos State, who has started this, do you think that Lagos State has got that kind of structure in place that will serve as a deterrent instead of approaching what it has done, which is the capital punishment status?
Now, Lagos State is one that has become rigorous, at least in the estimation of so many Nigerians, in coming out with some of these policies. But Nigeria is not just about Lagos State. I reckon that this law we are discussing was passed by the Lagos State government through the State House of Assembly. You could argue that quite a number of pro-people policies and initiatives are already in place to be able to mop up the number of unemployed, or the ratio of unemployment generally in the state. You could also give it to them that quite a number of other initiatives have been, have taken place to ensure that the tendency of an average Lagosian to take to such crimes is reduced. But we're making the point that one is that statistics shows clearly that instead of a reduction, an anticipated eradication or reduction, you haven't seen records showing that capital punishment indeed causes a reduction in those categories of crime. Secondly, if you are accusing somebody of a particular offense, your response to that challenge will not be to commit the same offense. And what I mean by that, which is part of the work we have also done, is that you as a state, with all the coercive powers, with the capacity to provide enough to take people away from crime, cannot be justifiably be found to participate in the same offense that you're accusing the culprits. You say somebody kidnaps the person, engages in kidnapping, and in the process, the victim dies. You as a state is responding by the same killing. You see, so from the issue of deterrence to the failure to rise above that social malaise of killing, either by the perpetrator or those who are dispensing justice.
As he said, you don't agree to, you don't subscribe to kill by the sword and die by the sword.
I am making the point that as the society evolves, we have all found ourselves in a global community in which civilization beckons at each and every state in Nigeria and across Africa, no less the world, to begin to scientifically deal with the empirical facts that we have.
Okay, we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Don't go away.